episode of the Unstable Brew, where we'll discuss all things not quite normal brewing up in our lives, this world, and even beyond. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Charity.
Let's get brewing.
Whoop, whoop. So, Taylor and I wanted to share our newest adventure. We have done the typical unstable thing of adopting a bunch of cats.
Here's the thing.
It's not like a bunch of cats combined. It's a bunch of cats. It's 3 cats, which isn't a lot, but it's more than one.
Here's the thing, though. We did not adopt the boys. The boys adopted us.
Yes, they
did. We
did.
just kind of embraced it during a time of loss, and so yeah. But yeah, my husband and I now have this glorious joke between us that we like to tell people. They just showed up and never really left. So that's
there
our
were
life.
7 of them. There were 7 of these kittens that just appeared on your doorsteps.
It's there's a little bit of a backstory with the number of cats there are.
Well, let's begin. Okay, a pregnant cat showed up on their doorstep.
No.
What is this backstory?
So you've already like skipped to like the middle part of this story. No. So the whole story began probably July? Yes, July. We saw a mom cat with 3 kittens playing next to a tree in our backyard, and we would just observe them playing while we let the dogs out to walk. Normal. They're super cute. They started to warm up to us a little bit. It was fine. Eventually, Mama started coming to us, and she would meow in such a way that was kind of like, help me.
Yeah.
So
probably hungry.
Most likely. So I was just like, oh, okay, it's just her and her kitten. So like we could probably feed them. And so about the time that we decided to do that, unfortunately, one of her, because there was 3 of them, one of them did not survive a car.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. There's no nice way of putting it. And so we were just kind of like, oh, at this point, like we've kind of found interest in them. We have a little bit of care, so we start to feed her and start to feed the boys. Princess started to show up a little bit after that, and we suspected she was pregnant, but we didn't know how far along she was. And then one day she didn't look as big, so we're like, oh, she must have had her kittens. We don't know where they are. We assumed that they were at our neighbor's house, and so we're like, okay, cool, whatever. She just comes here to get food, goes and feeds them. Until she literally dropped them off on our porch doorstep. Like,
she's like, these are your children now.
Like
Bye.
When they were old enough to finally like come out of, I guess, the shelter, I think it was during like a really stormy night or something. And it had calmed down, and we opened the door to let the dogs out, and there's this little fur ball pile on our porch. And we're like, who the f*** are you? Like, at first, I'm like, who the f*** are you? Where is your mother?
You are their mother now.
I'm like, well,
you are their mother.
Man, my husband and I are like, who is your mother? Where the f*** is she? Like, what is going on here? And we very quickly found out that it was Princess. So that's how we ended up with 7 stray cats that we just decided to feed. The boys, which they are lovingly named Jack and Daxter, and yes, for everyone out there, those are in fact the video game characters. We have a running theme. We name all of our animals after video game characters. So that was our downfall right then and there.
Yes. The moment you chose knowingly heart-attaching names, that was it. They were yours.
And I should have known better, because that's what happened with Katana, is I gave her a name, Katana, that we liked, and then boom, she was ours.
Yes.
So that's where I f***ed up, is I gave them actual names, because their mother is Mama, and then we have Princess, and then we have Sad Eye Kitty, we have Social Anxiety Kitty, and then we have Bowser Jr., because when she first came around, she was very, very feisty. And at that point, Princess was like Princess Peach, because she's a little bit of a princess.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where Bowser Jr. came from. But that's what we actually call the kittens.
See, she's got this horde of cats. I got one cat at a tire shop.
No.
I got one cat at a tire shop.
No. Here's what she's not telling you. The zoo she already has.
We're not talking about the zoo. I'm talking about the one cat. I got one cat. I may also have 2 other cats and 2 other dogs and a toddler and a husband who has the mind of a 12-year-old. But I also got a cat at a tire shop.
Which is hilarious because all your son said is, I like the cat, and the owners went, here, take it.
That owner was so done with her because she was constantly getting in their way. And he's like, your son like the cat? And Daniel was like, yeah, he likes him a lot. You want the cat? Isn't she your cat? No, she's getting in our way. I'm like, oh, okay. So Daniel walks up and he's like, here, hold this. And I'm like, okay. And I'm still in the car. And then he gets in the driver's seat and I'm like, do we have a cat now? And he's like, we have a cat now. And I'm like, okay. So I would like to just start right there by saying Daniel's the one who wanted to take her home. He just intended for her to be an outside cat. But let's be real. That was never going to last. I just sped up the process. I brought her in. I have spoiled her. I gave her a shirt. I gave her a coat. I gave her a bed and some toys. And she is the most spoiled little brat you've ever met now.
Yeah, and now your other cats hate her and will forever hate her.
Yo-Yo's trying to get to know her. He's actually trying, and it's kind of surprising to me because he'll kind of get up to her, and she body bumped him earlier. So during the day, because I work from home, she'll come into the office with me, and I'll let one cat in at a time to kind of try and work on socialization between them.
Get them used to each other.
And she's gotten to the point where she knows Yo-Yo exists. She's annoyed by his existence. But she's like, okay, this cat's here too. And she walked in and did the body bump. And I'm like, that's a good sign.
That's a very good sign.
She growled every time he got near her. But other than that, she body bumped him. So it's baby steps.
I will add that probably is the fact that both Jack and Daxter warmed up to Katana pretty quickly. And they warmed up to Alistair too. He just didn't really know how to interact with them. He would honestly probably hate our current situation. He wouldn't know what to do.
So explain who Alistair is.
Oh. I forget that, like, you know, we just started this.
To the general public.
So up until recently, September, my husband and I had 2 fur babies. We had Katana and we had Alistair. Alistair was actually the youngest of our fur babies. Unfortunately, we had to make the very difficult decision of kind of letting him move on in a less painful way because we discovered he pretty much had cancer and there was no way he was going to survive the weekend.
Yeah.
That was beginning of September because that was shortly after I got my tattoo.
Yes.
What a time. And so we no longer have him. It's still really tough because our house is just really, really quiet without him. Like, we didn't realize...
It's a big adjustment.
We didn't realize how big of an adjustment it would be until we came home and, like, we didn't hear the barking of us pulling in. Like, he always barked when we came home. Like, the other day, my mother-in-law came and knocked on the door. My husband never heard the knock. He was in our office. And so she just thought he wasn't home or he was playing a game. So she left because she just wanted to stop by and say hi. And it was just another one of those moments of we would have known
if Alistair
was there. Because he would have gone that crazy. Yeah. And then Katana would have gotten excited and gone crazy. So it was hard. So that's who Alistair is. He's no longer with us, unfortunately.
But now you have 2 little kitties that can take up all this extra love that you have to give.
Yes, because they got along so well with Katana and Alistair. They kind of like snuck in a few times and we just kind of let it happen. So we didn't really do anything to stop this from happening.
Despite your husband's allergies.
So here's the fun fact about that.
Yeah.
This is okay. He is the one who's perpetuated a lot of this behavior. This is not all going to be on me. I have to put that PSA out because he's going to say it's my fault and I'm the one who did. He played a
Yes.
part in this. So yes, my husband is allergic to cats, which has proved to make the situation a little weird because the boys are inside, outside cats. We put them out during the day. We bring them in at night. My husband decided to do research to see if there is ways to kind of assist with cat allergies and discovered something.
Which is really cool because I did not know that this existed.
Yeah, it's fairly new. Pedigree's the only one who makes this right now. So he discovered, and one of our friends who's in animal control, he actually also sent a video on this. So even he is just kind of like, check this out. It's viable. There's evidence to kind of correlate with it. People are allergic to cats because cats produce an enzyme in their saliva that when they clean themselves, it puts it on their coat.
Okay.
So that's why people are allergic to cats. There is cat food and there is shampoo out there. Yeah, there's like cat shampoo that you can put on. You don't have to get them wet. It's just a dry shampoo. But there is food out there and shampoo out there that you can purchase that is to help reduce the enzymes that are produced.
That is so cool.
So we have ordered our first bag of food. It takes probably about a month or so for it to actually
start to show the
make
effects.
a difference. It'll probably be a little bit, but I'm very curious to see how well this works because if it does, like,
I mean, that would be a game changer,
It would-
especially for Matt because he loves cats.
he
He just can't be
he's
near
just
them.
allergic to them. He loves cats. His allergies is the only thing that prevents him. We have a cat condo, and he's the one who's like, "Do you think they'll need a cat condo?" I'm like, no, they're fine with a little
He's like,
scratching thing.
But no, they need to climb and they need to be high and they need to curl up in that little ball right there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my husband has completely fallen for those little fur balls. I'm just embracing this because I love cats too. And I've always been like, no cats, because he's allergic. And now I'm like, we have 2 cats now.
This is our life.
The other thing to add with the whole enzyme thing, apparently, whenever you get the cats fixed, it also helps reduce the amount of enzymes that they naturally produce.
That's cool.
So
for all of our listeners out there that are allergic to cats, if you like cats and want cats, but you're allergic, now you know ways around it.
At least do research on it.
Yeah.
I think it's still relatively new because what it is you have to, it's very specific. You have to get eggs from a farm that the chickens were raised around other cats.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's the only way for these eggs
it's
to
like
then
it like it
produce.
grows an immunity to it.
Yes.
Dude, the stuff that our food picks up, I could go on a rampage because I'm allergic to everything under the sun. We will have to cover that on a later date
That's
because
a full episode
it's a
on its
full
own.
episode on itself, but it's amazing the things that our food picks up just from the area that it grows in.
So I'm really excited. It's the Pedigree Pro Plan series, and I think it's like Live Clear is what the food brand actually is. So we're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting if this works out and we actually do get them fixed. We'll see how much longer they end up being indoor-outdoor cats. They might end up getting converted to full indoor cats.
My guess is that I give it until December, if not early January. Because especially once it really gets cold
once it gets
and stays cold, they're coming in. And once they come in, they're never going back out.
Well, they already get to stay in during the night.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because they got to stay in whenever we already got our first freeze.
Mm-hmm.
They got to, that was their first real time. Actually, their first real time because I would let them stay in until midnight. And then I would kick them out. And then one night, I think it was raining or it was really cold. And we felt really guilty to put them out. And so we was like, okay, they can just, no, I'm wrong. I went to bed and I was going to leave Matt to be the one responsible with putting the cats out.
And Matt was like,
and
no.
by the time that he came to bed, he knew that I was going to be waking up soon anyways. So he let them stay in and let me put them out in the morning. That was the first time they got to stay in all night. And then eventually, because of the storms and because of the freeze, at this point, they come in as soon as I come home, and they get to stay in all night until I kick them out in the morning.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's only a matter of time. I've already thought about, I'm like, oh, if it like freezes, like, I don't want to leave them outside.
Yeah.
They're getting bright ass, like, they already have flea collars, and they're about to get like bright ass colored collars. So even if they're outside at this point, it's already indicated they belong to people.
Yeah.
So, okay. So in today's episode, we're asking the question, can people ever truly change? If they do, and if they do, or even if they don't, do they deserve forgiveness?
And we've all been hurt by someone, or, we've obviously seen someone do awful things. It's easy to look back on an incident from a decade ago and think, oh, that person's terrible, instead of, oh, that person was terrible. A decade creates a lot of change and growth in a person, or at least it should. So why then do we as a society hold people to the standard of who they once were instead of helping them to become someone new?
That's called cancel culture.
Yep. And it's rampant.
It's has become such a huge part of our society at this point. So the question is, do these people deserve to be canceled for something they did in high school 30 plus years ago, even 10 years ago?
I mean,
because like, I can recall, like, I have done some.
We've all done terrible stuff in our past,
but I've learned, I've grown. Like, I can tell you, I've made some awful comments when I was in high school that me now I'm like.
Yeah, I think back to some of the things that I said when I was in high school, and I'm like, if I were a political person, all that someone would have to do to bring me down is bring up a video of me talking when I was a junior in high school. It's like, am I proud of that? No. Absolutely not. Do I speak that way now?
Nope.
No. But the way that our society is like, oh, you said that 50 years ago? No, you can't be a leader in our society. It doesn't matter if they've changed or if they're showing that a person can change. It's like, no, you're done. And like, I get there are some things that are absolutely inexcusable. Sexual assault.
Oh.
Rape. Yeah. Abuse. Like,
murder.
Yeah. Obviously, murder.
I couldn't help myself. I just wanted to be like, murder.
I mean, obviously there are some things that should, like, you can't really excuse them. But at the same time, someone might have been racist 50 years ago. But through time and growth and change and education, they're not that way anymore. Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, as a Christian, I mean, it's part of my belief system that people have to be forgiven. Whether it be for something that they're continuing to do every single day or something that they did one time and asked for forgiveness and now it's done.
Yeah.
No matter what, they need to have forgiveness. But I'm also human, and I understand that that's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. And I mean, I've had some low blows in my own life. So, like, I understand, like, forgiveness isn't something that is easily provided. It's not something that should be handed out willy-nilly. Like, sometimes you gotta work for it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to say.
It's the right thing to say. It's not an easy thing to do by any means. And I mean, I know that you've mentioned to me kind of where you stand on this. So why don't we go ahead and get to your explanation on, can people ever truly change? And do you think they should be forgiven even if they don't fully recognize that they need to be forgiven for something, that they may have done something wrong?
So that's a very interesting stance. And I say that because I can give you a reference to several people within my life that have all done something wrong to me in some form of fashion. And most of them I've forgiven them for. Mm-hmm. There's a few people that it's honestly going to be very hard for me to forgive. So we'll see where we are. We'll see on where we are. I do think that people do deserve forgiveness. And I think they deserve forgiveness in the sense of, you recognize you up. You recognize your wrongdoing and where you messed up. And you go, I was not a good person at that time. I regret my decisions. I regret what was said. I regret what I've done. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't plan to do that anymore. And if you can prove to me that you have changed or you're in the process of changing, even if you mess up, because the thing is some situations, depending on what it is, it's hard to get out of. And so it kind of takes some time. Like you said, we're human. We're going to up. It's just it's
life. It's part of being human. We are imperfect.
So, but if you can still prove to me that you are trying, like you are desperately trying, and I can see even just an inkling of growth coming out of you, that's enough for me to be willing to forgive you for your actions. Because you at least recognize and you've learned and you're growing. Yeah. It's the people who, man, I'm like shaking because it like causes such a reaction.
It irritates you so much.
It's a physical reaction. I wasn't expecting a physical reaction out of this.
It shows that you have some pent up resentment in there for some people that you're like, absolutely not. They get what they deserve.
You know, karma is a and she will get her justice in due time. That's all I can say on that. But it's the people who do nothing or can't recognize where they've messed up, where their wrongdoings are, and continue to blame everyone else around them.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I find very difficult to be able to find myself to forgive. Because I guess it's more of a selfish thing of like, why should I give you my forgiveness
when you can't even recognize that you need to be forgiven?
Yeah, I think that's the best way of putting it. Why should I even offer you forgiveness if you can't even recognize why it's been given?
Exactly. I completely understand that point of view, and like I said, I completely understand that feeling and the emotion behind it, because I mean, when I think about when I was kicked out of the church, I saw that pastor again years after. I saw him and his wife was lovely. You know, she was talking to me, you know, trying to get to know, you know, like how I've been over the years, where I'm at in my life. He didn't even look me in the eye. He never looked up. So I don't know if it was like he knew he did something wrong. I don't know if it was he didn't think he did something wrong and didn't want to have to deal with the confrontation. I don't know what it was, but he would not look at me. And so it's very easy for me to be like, why should I forgive someone who acted like that?
Right.
And whenever I was first kicked out, I used to have like these entire scenarios play out in my head of me just going up to the church and sitting down one-on-one and being like, why would you do this?
Yeah.
Like, do you understand how much you've hurt me? Do you understand how much you hurt my dad? How this affects people on a spiritual level.
Do you recognize your actions?
Exactly.
And like the domino effect.
I would have entire scenarios in my head of, does this person understand that what they did was wrong? And will they ever actually ask for forgiveness?
Right.
Do they deserve that forgiveness? Eventually, I gave him that forgiveness just because he never asked for it. I don't think he even realized that he needed it. But I needed it.
Right.
Because for me, it's also about my own personal healing of how can I say that I have truly moved on from this if I'm still holding anger and frustration over it, if I'm still dwelling on the past and all of the negative things that it brought to my life, rather than trying to shift my focus to all the good that it brought me. A better sense of friendship with the new friend group that I came into contact with.
Because we're the best.
Exactly. It put me on a different path in my life. It put me on a different path in my faith. Like, there's a lot of good that came from that darkness. And if I'm so busy focusing on how he did me wrong, I can't see the good things that came from it. So I have to forgive him, because while he did me wrong and he's not asking for forgiveness, I can forgive the wrong that he did because I can see the good that came from it. if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I say that because, so I have been no contact with my guardian for, I want to say about 3 years now. My guardian and the partner that they had, while I was growing up here, those are the two people that I don't know if I'll be able to forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they caused a lot of hurt. I mean, a lot
childhood
of hurt.
trauma, specifically given by guardians, the people that are supposed to be there and protect you, I feel like those can be some of the hardest to forgive because they are the ones that are meant to protect you, and they weren't doing that
They
job.
are the ones who are meant to protect me. And what they did to me, while they never physically harmed me, it was the emotional, psychological abuse that I experienced, the level of manipulation that they had used on me that is just really hard to look past.
Yeah.
And kind of find forgiveness because, again, you were supposed to protect me through all of this, and now you've just given me nothing but trauma that requires therapy and medication, which I need.
Mm-hmm. So, what if, and I know that we've talked about this before, and you don't think that it's likely, but let's say in some random alternate universe, your guardian, say, goes to counseling or sees a doctor and gets medicated or finds God and realizes how terrible they were to you and your brother. And they come to you and they're like, look, I recognize this. I'm so sorry. Can you please forgive me? I'll try and make it up to you.
If they came to me like that, then yeah, I would work on the process of forgiveness because at that point we can establish communication.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel safe enough to express my feelings and all of the hurt they've caused and realize that they recognize this and go, oh my God, I'm an awful person. I can work with that. My guardian's never going to do that. There's no diagnosis. But based upon their habits, they're a narcissist.
Yeah. Typically, a narcissist isn't going to get a diagnosis because they don't think there's anything wrong with them.
Unfortunately, most narcissists will never recognize their own wrongdoings. And because of this, it's hard for me to see if I can ever forgive this person. Because I have mentioned the hurt that they have caused, and they gaslit me the entire time.
Yeah.
They made me think that it was my fault. It was in our head. I mean, for crying out loud, who tells their kids the only reason I stayed with my partner this entire time was because you and your brother made me do it?
I could say so many things.
Now you see why I'm up. Yeah, like that's the thing is they have always found ways to blame me and my brother in some form of fashion. And so it's really hard for me to be able to forgive them. However, I will say this. While I don't know if I can forgive them as people, I also know that I can't dwell on the hurt that they caused. Mm-hmm. It's, yeah, they really jacked me up. I mean, I'm a hot freaking mess. That's a given.
Yes.
They caused a lot of hurt. They caused a lot of trauma. But they're not in my life now.
So now it's time for you to grow as your own person.
Correct.
And become a good person despite them.
Correct.
Not because of them.
That's exactly where I am. Is I'm in my villain era. That's what I'm calling my 30s. I'm like every other traumatic, unstable 30-year-old woman. I am in my villain era, and it's great. So I'm living the life that I've always wanted to live, mm-hmm. and it's in almost spite.
Yeah.
It's, you really thought I wasn't going to be able to accomplish this? Look at me now. I'm doing so much better than you probably ever thought.
Yes.
It's great. It's great.
Exactly.
I mean,
and
yeah, I'm doing great. I'm like, ooh, because I've had a lot more self-reflection as of late, and I'm just I've really taken the time to go, I love my life.
And I mean,
I really love my life. It's great. It's fabulous. There's struggles, there's ups, there's downs. But this is the best life I could have ever imagined. Ever.
And see, in that moment, and that's kind of where I put myself, like I said, with the church hurt of, I can look at the pain and the hurt that moment caused me, and I can think about how that's prevented me from, getting reconnected with the church. Like, I'm at a church right now, but I've never truly felt connected with another church since then. Yeah. Because I'm always looking at the politics that's going on behind the doors. But if you look at how it's changed you, how it's made you better, how it's made you stronger, you have become very independent and you fight for what you want. You fight for other people. Like, you did all of this despite that.
Yes.
And you might not be this strong-willed person had they not done that. That's not giving them an excuse. That's not giving them a pass. But that's the thing that you can hold on to when you're looking for that forgiveness to be able to move on.
Oh, yeah. I'm living my life in complete and total spite out of them. It is nothing but spite out of them, and I am here for it. Like, you want to know a thing that I had to deal with in high school? I think I've told you this, but it's really and I know the listeners are going to be like, what?
I've heard so many stories.
So it's a rant. I'm sorry I'm derailing, but it kind of is one of those moments of...
We can rant, and if Daniel decides to cut it, he can cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The night that I graduated high school, I was packing and moving boxes up into an hour before my high school graduation. And then right after high school graduation, we came back, and I had to help load up trucks and trailers because we were moving out of the apartment we had lived in with my guardian's partner, because at that point I was out of high school, so then they could divorce. Like, they were waiting for me to be able, like...
They decided to divorce on your graduation day?
No, it was like a month or so before. Honestly, they should have done it sooner, but we made the big move on graduation day. Yeah. Yeah.
My face right now. I mean, She says, oh, well, I stayed with this partner because of you. What, to make me happy? So it's making me happy that you're turning my graduation day into all about you and you leaving your partner?
Yep.
Narcissism.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said, I completely understand the want and, quite frankly, the feeling of righteousness in holding on to that.
I think I've let go of the anger part of it because I've turned it into spite.
That's still anger, though. It's a different form of anger. It's like you're putting your anger into something. I'm not angry, so I'm going to yell at you. I'm angry, so I'm going to prove you wrong in every way possible. So I completely understand. Like you said, it's not anger in its original stance of feeling this radiate within you at this person. It's, you know what? She told me I was going to be pregnant before I graduated college. Look at me now. I've graduated college. She told me that. Exactly. You've got a career. You've got a husband. You've got a life. You've got a house. Like, you're fine. You're living your life and you're doing it well and you're doing it despite her. It's great, but it is still a form of anger. And until you truly know how to forgive, you can't move on.
And I probably won't be able to do that until I go through the therapy.
You're going to have to see a therapist, and they're going to have to teach you healing mechanism. It's going to take time.
Until then,
spite. Spite. Like I said, so I completely get it. But from the Christian standpoint, and I marked a couple of verses. So with Ephesians 4:32, it says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ, God, forgave you. And then in Matthew 18:21-22 says, then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? And Jesus answered, I tell you not 7 times, but 77 times. Obviously, that's not literal. Let's say a person wrongs you 77 times. You can't be like, awesome, great, now I don't have to forgive you anymore. It's metaphorical. The point is, we are to forgive everyone, no matter the stance, because we sin. We all sin. We've all made mistakes. We've all messed up.
We're
We're human. We are imperfect. And if we expect to be forgiven, then we have to offer that same level of forgiveness to other people. God's ultimately the one who's going to judge us. And this even means those people that say, oh, well, I'm changing. I promise I'm changing. But then you continue to see them over and over and over again. You're laughing at me.
I'm not laughing at you. I just had a really awful, intrusive thought.
Oh my. What do we say about intrusive thoughts, Taylor?
Oh, I'm saying
Act on them. Speak it.
So you mentioned, God is the one who gets to judge us.
Yeah.
He's already judged my guardian. That is going to hell. I'm surprised they didn't burn when they walked in the church for my wedding.
She didn't stay for the wedding if it makes you better.
No, they did not.
Anyways, so with the
Trauma!
70 times 7 thing, it's a lot more of what you were saying of if someone continues to mess up over and over and over again, it can be really easy to be like, you keep saying you're changing, but you're obviously not changing. As a Christian, we're still supposed to forgive them. It's basically what that means.
I mean, I know that's how it's supposed to be done. I'm aware that's how it's supposed to be done. I think
I never said it was easy.
fair.
And I never said that I abided by that. I try to. I
So-
really do. But I know that there's a lot of forgiveness that I still have to give.
And the thing is I guess for my guardian situation is I have tried to forgive them. I've tried to forgive them multiple times. I have given them an opportunity to prove to me that they're trying, that they've changed.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they continue to fall back into their ways and
Yeah.
prove to me that they have done zero change, zero growth. So it's hard for me to do that. But again, that's most likely probably, you know, anger. Because, I mean, my brother has done me wrong many of times, and I still forgive his smart ass.
And the other thing is, how often is it that someone may not change because that forgiveness isn't given to them? That's where we go back to the cancer. God almighty, I'm having a stroke.
Cancel culture.
Cancer culture. We all got cancer.
Oh, God.
This took a turn.
No.
Cancer. But that's where we go back to cancel culture of someone messes up, and whether it was yesterday or 50 years ago, it's, oh, they're just apologizing because they have to. But if we were to forgive this person and be like, here's some resources to help you realize what's the right thing to do next time. Here's our forgiveness so that way we can help you become a better person tomorrow. Would that make us a better society? Or is us holding on to this anger keeping them where they're currently at because, well, they don't think they deserve forgiveness, so why even bother changing?
I mean, that's all we are is a bunch of a-holes. We're self-centered. We're selfish as all get out.
Yeah.
I don't see us as a whole being able to understand the concept of forgiveness because there's so many people who are so self-centered and have been hurt so much that they can't see past that hurt.
Yes.
And it's going to continue like that until we as a collective try to change that. And I just don't see it happening. The best we can do is just do better for our kids.
Pretty much.
And I mean, I already see you doing it with Alex. I see Christina doing it with Gemma and Micah.
And I mean,
I know I'm going to try my damnedest.
I'm doing a lot better, and I'm really trying. And I mean, kind of going back, we're backtracking. So with you, your issue with your guardian is the fact that you don't think she'll ever change.
Correct.
So with my father, he literally can't change. He's a rock now. So he's at where he's at. He's set in stone. He is where he's at. It's written in stone. It's
He's at a
hard as rock. I mean, we're at where we're at.
How many more puns
I'm trying to come up with some, and I'm drawing a blank.
How many rock puns can we throw into this?
Well, there's
Rock
one.
fact.
Rock fact.
Oh my God. Now
I honestly feel like this episode might be shot.
that's fine.
It's fine. Anyways, so with that, like, I know that he's never gonna change. Like, he was who he was, and I'm stuck with that. And that's one thing that I'm working out with my therapist right now is how do I forgive someone who's not alive to forgive? He can't change. He can't hear my issues because I was never brave enough to come forward with my issues while he was alive. And so he doesn't even know that a lot of these problems existed. And if he did know, he didn't let on to it because he was a narcissist in his own way of things often came back to him and how he felt like he was a bad father rather than actually seeing how it affected me and trying to not do those things.
Right. And unfortunately for your father, he had a rough life of his own and just didn't know how to be a parent.
Exactly.
Because he didn't have an example.
And that's where a lot of my therapy is. And that's where learning how to forgive him because he's just a product of this same generational curse that's affecting me now. And so it's one of those things of I know that he wanted to be a good dad. I know that he wanted to be a good person. I know that he didn't want to go through life the way that he did. But I have to find a way to forgive him for this anger that I know I still hold in my heart of the fact that he allowed himself to get more sick.
Yeah.
He allowed himself to continue to eat the way that he did that affected his triglycerides and his health and his diabetes.
Right.
Which ultimately led to his liver issues. I have to learn how to forgive him for this, distance between my brother and me and the things that created in my family. It's like, I know that there's still this anger in my heart towards him. I know that there's spite. I know that there's a lot of it that I'm still having to learn to deal with and provide forgiveness for because I feel like I have to do that as a Christian. And quite frankly, as a person, I know it'll provide my own sense of healing. But that's where I can kind of relate to you on your level of...
You understand where the hurt comes from.
I know where the hurt comes from. I just have a different perspective of how forgiveness can truly help us and how it can help the person who wronged us. I know we don't want to help the people that wrong us. As humans, we don't want to do that. But ultimately, if we can help any person out there to be better tomorrow, that's going to help society as a whole. Well, even if we don't want to do that.
I do want to add, the difference is, and I think will help tremendously with you going through your forgiveness journey with regards to your dad, is you already recognize and know this is not what he wanted.
No.
I know that
he didn't want it.
You are aware enough that he never wanted this. He couldn't heal himself to get past it.
Exactly.
And I think having that peace of mind and that
self-awareness
can help in the forgiveness process.
Yes.
In my situation, I don't think I'll ever get to experience my guardian never wanted to be like this because they've only proven to me that they're selfish.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it'll be kind of hard. To the sense of, forgiveness, where do you stand on can people change? Do you think that your dad could have ever changed or was capable of it had he lived longer and actually had started the healing process that he should have started a long time ago?
So he actually tried to start that healing process. He did see a therapist for a long time. The issue was he saw a therapist who was his friend. Don't do that. If you're going to see a therapist, see an outside person. See someone an unbiased person. You need a professional who's not going to tell you what you want to hear, who's not going to listen to your self-diagnosis and give you understanding of that. And feed into this idea of, okay, well, I might be right. You need a completely unbiased outside person. And he didn't have that. So I feel like a lot of his journey was kind of hindered.
Okay.
I think he could have changed. I don't think he ever would have been a perfect person because that doesn't exist.
Right.
I think he was a slight narcissist in the sense of everything always came back to him.
Mm.
Everything, I mean, my mom had a full hysterectomy, and he still wanted people to kind of wait on him. I get that the man was sick. The man was sick.
But your mother had
my mom had a hysterectomy.
She had things ripped out of her body.
Exactly. So, like, that was just kind of how things were. So I understand, like, there's some things about a person that can't change if it's in their chemical makeup. But if a person becomes aware of it,
that's the important part.
That's the key. If they are aware of it and they want to change, while it may not be a trait that can be changed, it's something that they can work on in the sense of, oh, I recognize I'm doing this. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
And I think that he could have done that, especially with my own healing journey. I feel like eventually I would have gotten to the point where I would have been comfortable talking to him.
Your therapist would have forced it at some point.
At some point, she's trying. She's trying to get to do it with your mom. With my mom, I know that. But with my dad, I think eventually I would have gotten to the point of opening up and explaining to him everything that happened. Okay. And, everything that I felt. And I think that within itself would have helped a lot. So I do think that everyone is capable of change, including a narcissist. It may not be a perfect change. And, they may never be the people that we want them to be. But if a person becomes aware of how they hurt people and don't want to hurt them anymore, anybody is capable of change.
I agree 110%.
Now, I know that there are sociopaths out there. Their brain is not physically capable of change.
No.
Their brain
That's a chemical imbalance.
That is a chemical imbalance that cannot be corrected. Scientists are looking into how to correct it. It's not physically possible at this time, but that's something that is out of their control. Kind of like narcissists cannot be healed of narcissism.
No, but they can be self-aware.
They can be self-aware. That's the difference, and that can allow change in their day-to-day life. I do believe anybody can change. It's the question of, are they willing?
That's the biggest thing. I've witnessed
And either
change.
way, but that's where I go back to, either way, whether they recognize it or not, whether they change or not, we as a society need to be more forgiving, even of those who don't ask for it. I'm not saying it's easy.
No.
I'm just saying that we need to try a little harder.
Good luck on that one.
I want to bring up one thing to that point. Only because when we talk about something like this, I have to bring it up.
What are you going to bring up?
I can't remember his name. There was a man who was shot and killed in Dallas by an off-duty police officer a few years ago. He was in his own home. She was off duty. She thought she was walking into her own apartment.
Oh,
you know who I'm talking to.
One.
Yeah. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But obviously, she was arrested. There was a trial. She was, in fact, actually convicted of murder, which is, like, unfortunately unheard of. But it was great because justice was served in this instance. What was beautiful was his younger brother. So the man who was shot and killed was a music minister at a church. And he was, the videos that I've seen of this man, he was so passionate about God.
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
He had a beautiful voice, and he was just a fun-loving guy. And his brother got up on that stand.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you mentioned all of that, and I'm coming to the realization I personally did not know any of that because I can just only remember the news talking about the fact that an officer had killed an African American in his own home. And that annoyed me because I'm like, you're just focusing on one thing and not as him as a person.
They also wanted to focus on the fact that he was doing marijuana in his own home when someone broke into his own home and shot and killed him. What does that have to do with anything?
It was disgusting. But I just want to bring up because I know it's a naive thing, but I kind of try to not pay too much attention to the news.
That was just such a huge story. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I have to watch the news for my job, and in that moment...
But they never really described, like... they never described him as a victim that he was and who he was as a person. So that's a little upsetting.
But so I watched the trial as it happened.
Oh, dang.
Because I wanted to know everything.
Right.
When something like this happens, I want to get all the details. Some things will, some things won't. So when in the trial, when his younger brother got on stand, he looked straight at the person who shot his older brother. And he said, my stance, my opinion, does not reflect that of my mother's. It does not reflect that of my family's. But I believe that it would reflect that of my brother's. My brother was a very forgiving person. I believe that he would understand that people make mistakes. I would believe that he would understand if you're truly sorry. And he would want you to know that you are deserving of forgiveness and love, just like anybody else.
Oh, that's
and he goes into this whole spiel about that, as well as how, you know, you're going to be spending, I believe she got a 10-year or 5-year sentence.
Right.
And he goes, you're going to be spending these next years of your life in jail. I'm going to give you, no, he didn't give her a Bible. The judge gave her a Bible. And he goes, I want you to spend that time, and I want you to focus on the wrongs that you've done in your life and how you can be a better person in the future, and how Christ can lead you going on, and try and find a connection with him or something. And he basically preached to her on the stand and then gave her a hug afterwards. And he goes, I do forgive you. I know that you're worth forgiveness. I know that you are capable of change. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Moment.
It was a very powerful moment. The fact that this younger brother could look the woman in her eyes that shot his older brother and killed him.
In his own home.
In his own home, and give her forgiveness, tell her that she's worthy of love, worthy of forgiveness, capable of change, and that he would continue to pray for her.
That's a powerful moment.
It was a powerful moment. But where society comes in, people were shouting at him saying, she doesn't deserve this. You don't need to be giving her your forgiveness.
Let the man do his own thing.
It's his own life. It's his own feelings.
If
he wants to give forgiveness, whether it be for her or for himself, for his own healing journey. That was a beautiful moment. Don't let your anger and your hatred overshadow other people's lives. That was beautiful.
That's a very powerful moment.
Yeah.
I think that's another indicator of people can change.
Yes.
A more lighter sense. I'm sorry, your husband's going to hate this. He's probably going to cut it.
He probably hates this entire episode at this
point. I know a good example is your husband and how he has changed.
Oh, the stories I've heard.
I am not going to go into detail. I will say that because I know that he would not like that whatsoever.
Yeah, we try to leave that one out of it.
Yeah. I will say I was not a fan of him in middle school and high school because he was your typical teenage boys. And he was doing some stuff that I was not a fan of with some friends of mine. I really didn't think
he was a player.
He was. I never would have thought in a million years that I would be sitting in his home calling his son my nephew.
It's because of me.
He is one of my best friends. I can actually claim that. And the thing is high school, me and him, no.
I've told him multiple times, if I knew you in high school, this would not be a thing. Like
he recognized his wrongdoings,
and he grew up
so much.
And that's why you shouldn't hold people to the things that they said or did when they were in high school, when they were in junior high. Like, they were kids. Of course they were saying stupid stuff. Their brain's not fully developed.
Right? I don't know if his is still fully developed.
It's questionable. Mine sure isn't.
I was referring to yours. No, I was talking about your husband.
Yeah. I was like, I was referring to mine. Were you referring to mine?
I hope this episode reaches someone who may have needed it today. Take the time to reflect on what was spoken. Who has hurt you or someone you love in your life? Can you forgive them? Do they even deserve it? Does anyone really have the ability to change?
If any of our listeners would like to send in their personal stories or opinions on this matter, feel free to share those with us at theunstableBrew@gmail.com. We promise to read all of the emails and share any that may fit into a future episode. If you would like to share your story but remain anonymous, simply let us know and we will be sure to honor your request.
Additionally, if you'd like to share with us your story, simply to just share it and not have it shared on future episodes, please feel free to do that as well. Simply let us know that the email is for venting purposes only and not to be shared with the show, and we will respect that as well.
If you would like to follow us on social media, we are available on Instagram and TikTok under the Unstable Brew. We will often be posting promo videos and extra fun content on these platforms.
And remember, we are available for your listening pleasure or displeasure on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please like, share, and download to your heart's content.
We will be back next time with more unstable content.
Bye.